What's up, it's Wills, back with more Miata mods. And today in the Miata build, we're going to be installing some bucket seats on my Miata. On the previous episode, we installed my Blackbird Fabworks GT3 Gen 2 roll bar. To complete the safety equipment installs, I'm going to be installing 2 bucket seats, harnesses, and brackets. For the driver's seat, we got a Sparco Pro 2000 that I got used off Facebook. And for the passenger seat, we have a brand new Sparco Sprint. For my racing harnesses, I went with 6-point Schroth harnesses, and for the seat brackets I went with some Jerfspeed super low side mount seat brackets. For these seat brackets, they're known to be the lowest sitting seat brackets for Miatas. They're very tall guy friendly and have been known to be able to get the lowest driving position possible. For the passenger seat, I went with these eBay brackets. I'm not sure if I'll put sliders yet. We'll see when we install them. I might just try to mount them directly to the rail itself to get the seat as low as I can. Alright, so that's all the parts I'm going to install. Let's get right into it. Alright, first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to go ahead and put some masking tape all over the sides of the bucket seat. That way I don't scratch it up while I'm test fitting the seating position. So before we do our test fit, I'm going to go over why these Jerfspeed seat brackets are special compared to other Miata seat brackets. First off, they're designed to sit as close to the trans tunnel as possible. And for the trans tunnel, there is a little hump here. Not really able to see it on camera, but there is a hump here, so it's able to sit really close and flush against it. And if you do need more clearance, you can always bash this out to get it to sit even closer. And for the rear, it doesn't mount to the stock seat mount hump. It actually mounts farther back and bolts directly to the floor pan. This allows the seat to sit all the way down to where this is, compared to other brackets which would sit on top of this, raising it about a 1/4 inch or so. Also, if you do need more clearance, you can remove the stock mounting points. There's just a few spot welds that hold on this mount, so that's easily removed to get even more clearance, and the seat can even sit directly onto the floor pan. So these are pretty sweet. I'm not sure if he makes them anymore. They're usually sold out on most sites, and if you do want to get a pair, I'm sure you can contact him and he might be able to make some for you. Alright, so let's go ahead and get these test fitted and see where we want to mount the seat. Alright, so for my first initial test fit, I'm going to go ahead and mount both mounting points in the center position, and then we'll see if we need to adjust it forward, backwards, or up and down. Alright, so here's the initial test fit. Looks like we won't be able to use this middle position. We'll have to scoot it forward because it's hitting right here where the door seals. And I think we'll also have to bash in the tunnel a little bit to get more clearance to the right. So let's go ahead and move the seat position, see if that helps. Alright, so I decided to go with the most forward position, and I went one up on the height so that the seat can lean back a little bit more. Feels pretty good. I feel like my hands are in a good spot. My feet are in a good position to reach the pedals. The only thing left to do is I gotta bash out this little hump in the tunnel so I can get the seat to sit a little bit more in. All right, now that the carpet's pulled up, you can see the hump that we need to bash in to make more clearance. I'm just gonna go ahead and take a sledge and tap this in. So next up to do for these seat brackets is I'm gonna need to drill the holes for the back mount. So I'm gonna drill 2 holes and make a couple of cuts in the carpet. Are drilled and the trans tunnel is bashed in. I'm gonna go ahead and hit it with some paint to keep it from rusting. All right, now that we got the seat mounted, I went ahead and made some marks. These marks are going to be where the submarine mounting points are for the 6-point harness. So I made 2 marks, but I'm actually going to be using this rearward one. And essentially when you mount your submarine harness, you want the two mounting points to be right behind the chest line when you're sitting in the seat, and roughly at about a 20-degree angle when the belt is going into the hole for the seat. So as you can see right here, this is where the old sub mount was. It's mounted way too far forward, and it should have been mounted way more to the rear. So the previous owner definitely installed this in the incorrect position. So let's go ahead and get it in the right place where it's supposed to be. All right, so here's where I decided to make my marks for the holes. One's gonna be right in front of this rear hump, and then this one's gonna be right over here, right in front of the other rear hump. It's about 9 inches apart, and this goes right on the side of the frame rail. And this, I checked underneath, should be clear, so we shouldn't be hitting anything. So all I gotta do now is just drill the holes, get these in. All right, just got the old harness mount out, and man, this thing was definitely not safe. The top, there was a washer on top, but on the bottom there was just a nut with no washer or anything to spread the load on the bottom. So in a crash situation, this probably could have just ripped straight through this hole. Also, the previous owner didn't even bother to clean up the shavings when they made a hole, and it looks like for this hole, instead of making it the right size, they just ovaled it out with a drill bit or something. I don't know, man. Previous owner of this car did some real shoddy work. All right, so now we just got to cut some holes into the carpet. What I did was I got a paint pen and I went from the bottom, made some marks on the carpet, and that's where I'll cut. All right, cool, pretty nice and clean install. A lot better than what the last owner did. Didn't even remove the carpet, I don't think. He probably just chopped this carpet up to try to get access and drill the hole. But luckily, it'll all be covered up and it won't be visible once we get the seat in. So next up, go ahead and do the harnesses. All right, now that I got the sub belts in, I'm gonna go ahead and get the seat back in and do a test fit to see where the belt sits. It pretty much should sit right on your hips, so like not at your belly or farther down. It should sit right on top of your hip bone. So go ahead and get the seat in and see if we need to adjust. All right, so here's how the belts sit out of the box. Sitting a bit high, like right in the middle of my belly. So I'm gonna have to shorten it probably about 2 inches or so to get it to sit right about there. All right, next up, let's go ahead and get these side mounts all set up. First, I'm gonna take out these old ones. All right, so I'm gonna be running the stock seat belt. So I'm gonna add in this little spacer thing. All right, so I'm gonna be running the stock seat belt. Pretty much, I got this spacer and a washer. And this should be able to let the seatbelt articulate even once this is tightened down. All right, now I'm going to go ahead and attach it to the chassis. Got a washer and I got a little spacer here. And here's the setup for the stock seatbelt receiver. I'm going to go ahead and get the lap belt clipped in and we'll see if we need to adjust them. All right, so this is the pull straps all the way tightened, and as you can see, it's very loose. So we're gonna have to take the seats back out and shorten up the lap harnesses. All right, so I got the sub belt and the lap harness where I want it. Next up, I'm gonna go ahead and take the seat out again so I can route the stock seat belt through this hole and this hole. I'm gonna have to take the seat out because I can't really get this bottom mount out without taking out the bracket. So let's go ahead and get that out and get the stock seat belt routed. All right, last thing to get these seats in place, I gotta bolt the back of the seat rails down with these 2 bolts from the bottom because these Jerfspeed mounts mount straight to the floor. I'm not gonna film this part, but you get the idea. Go from underneath where the holes were, bolt it in. All right, now last thing is just to get these mounted to the roll bar. So pretty much for these, what you wanna do is go up and over, wrap it around the bar, and go up and over again. And then go over and then through here. Just like that. All right, so after trying my best to get these eBay brackets to work, I've given up. These things are pretty shit fit. The holes don't line up at all. So I've decided to just say screw it with these and get different brackets. All right, so these are the brackets I decided to go with. These are destroy or die. These are pretty sweet brackets, and they claim that you should be able to go pretty low with them. They've got a pretty sweet cutout of their destroy logo. These brackets seem pretty thick, super well made, and they're nice and powder coated. Pretty excited to be running these instead of those eBay brackets. I don't have to worry about bolting on some side brackets to the seat mount. These are just mounting the seat directly to the bracket itself. They should be pretty sweet. It's like they have a good amount of adjustment, so I should be able to get the seat right where I need it to. Now that these came in, should be able to get it in pretty quick. So for the passenger seat, I'm pretty happy with where it's sitting right now. Next up, I just got to go ahead and drill the holes for the bottom mounts and then run the harnesses. All right, so when drilling the holes on the passenger side, you do have to be a bit more careful because there's fuel lines running from the gas tank to the engine. So when marking out the holes, we just gotta be careful to make sure we're not getting close to them. So my plan is to first drill the hole on the outside from the top side, and then I'll go from underneath the car and drill the hole for the inboard mount. So once I drill a pilot hole for the inboard, I'll go ahead and go from the top and drill the larger hole. All right, so this is the old mount on the passenger side. Once again, you can see no backing plate at all, just a small washer. Man, this thing sure was unsafe. All right, so for the passenger side, went under the car, I removed a bolt, and it should be pretty clear in this area to go ahead and drill. I'm thinking I'll probably put the hole right about here. And just to be sure, I'm actually going to drill from the bottom up. All right, so for the passenger seat, it's going to be a little bit trickier to get in. What I'm going to have to do is I'm going to have to take out the back bolts so I can put in the bolts for the bracket and then lower it back into place. So essentially, I just took out the back bolts and get these floor mounts in, lower it back down, and then tighten up the sides. Okay. All right, got the seats and harnesses installed. In a really good and comfortable position. It was a pretty straightforward install. Just took a while to find the right position since I had to take them in and out a few times. But other than that, it was a pretty easy install. There were a few issues I have with these specific seats. I'll show you real quick. So as you can see right here on the driver's seat, the Sparco Pro 2000's a little bit wide, so it hits the door card. And it does leave a little bit of indent, but that's something I could live with since I don't really mind. And then another issue I have is for the Blackbird Fabworks roll bar, where the stock seatbelt mount is, it doesn't really allow the seatbelt to articulate more than this angle. So unfortunately, I can't run the stock seatbelt over the seats. So I had to run them through the holes in the seat to make it work. Other than that, the Sparco Sprint fits perfect. It doesn't hit the door at all, and it's actually super comfortable. I sat it in a bunch, and for the price, I definitely think the Sparco Sprint is one of the best seats that you can get for a Miata. So that's all for this install. Hope you found the video helpful. If you did, go ahead and leave a like. If you want to keep following the build, subscribe. All right, I'll see you in the next one. Peace.